Hey Tim.
What's up, Josh? How are you?
Oh, not too much. Well, actually, kind of a bit. It's been a few weeks since we've recorded, and you and I both have shot some fun, interesting matches.
We have.
The last podcast or the last one we were on, I think we talked a lot about how we were kind of prepping for that with various like local matches and practice and stuff.
Hmm.
But now, actually, you've headed down to Florida to shoot the IPSC US Extreme Open. Is that right? Okay, cool. For some reason, that name won't stick in my head, but I got close enough. Good enough for government work.
I think the year
And
before, I think last year it was actually called like the Pan American Extreme or something. Um, but
oh,
they based the U.S. IPSC Extreme Open is based off of like the European Extreme Open, which is also by the same name, and then there's also I want to say there's like an Asian Open, U.S. or I'm sorry, U.S. IPSC Extreme Open as well. So I think the U.S. Extreme Open this year is like one of three of like the very large IPSC worldwide kind of IPSC matches. So this would just happen.
okay. So kind of like each continent, except maybe Antarctica or something like that, has an extreme open that you can go
Right.
shoot.
Yeah. Like I said, I think
Okay,
there's three or four of
cool.
them this year.
Well, that's
So
pretty
and they
cool.
added the U.S. Extreme this year to the I think the lineup of two or three from last year.
Nice. Well, that sounds pretty fun. And for my part, the weekend after you shot that in Florida, I shot the Caribbean Open in Puerto Rico, actually.
Hmm.
And that is more of an IPSC flavored match, but it's technically an outlaw match because they changed some of the rules mainly for how the divisions are defined to accommodate people that like shoot USPSA divisions in the US. And so maybe some of this USPSA IPSC talk is a little bit of gobbledygook to some of the newer folks. So could you explain a little bit what the those two acronyms are and what the heck we're talking about?
Yeah, so USPSA is obviously stands for United States Practical Shooting Association. So that's the kind of the sanctioning body of kind of the American IPSC or practical shooting that is in the United States. IPSC is the International Practical Shooting Confederation, which actually its birthplace was here in the United States, and it became an international sport back in the very late 70s, early 80s. 1976 is when IPSC or USPSA practical shooting basically was invented, um, as a sport, and then IPSC was the international like sanctioning body, and then USPSA came about in the late to mid 80s. I'm sorry, early to mid 80s. As the U.S. like the U.S. governing body of IPSC, so IPSC is an international sport, just like USPSA is, but it's got a little bit different rule set than like standard USPSA. So like USPSA, you're still given the freedom um, to kind of figure out the puzzle or solve the puzzle or the stage to the best of your ability and shoot it freestyle. But IPSC, there's a couple of little differences there. So, like in USPSA, the what they call the 8 round per array rule that's in USPSA doesn't really exist in IPSC. In IPSC, in IPSC, uh, things like a little bit different, like in the start procedures. So, like in USPSA, when you're asked to make ready or told to make ready, you're allowed to like draw the gun and take a sight picture on a target, or a lot of guys will kind of dry fire the first array, so they'll draw the gun and aim the gun around, do their thing. They might rack the slide a couple of times and work the trigger, do a couple of dry fire reps or whatever before like loading and chambering around in the gun and then reholstering. In IPSC, you're not allowed to do that at all. So on the make ready, all you're allowed to do is lift the gun from the holster. You are not allowed to take a sight picture at all. Insert the magazine, load around in the chamber if it is a fully loaded start, and then immediately reholster the gun in the holster and await further commands. So there's it kind of shortens the make ready process. In IPSC or IPSC, you're not allowed to also walk the stages ahead of of your day of competition. You're also not allowed to get on the stages themselves and look at the stages until you're given the written stage briefing during your 3 minute like squad walkthrough. So they're a little more stringent. I think a lot of that is because of time constraints, making sure that like each stage is about a 30 minute to 45-minute changeover between squads. Whereas in USPSA, like you're given a 2 minute make ready, you're given a 4 minute walkthrough. You can show up the day before your match and walk all the stages and, and take a look at everything. Whereas in IPSC, it's basically, like, hey, you better be as prepared as possible because your preparation is 3 minutes with a squad of 8 to 12 people
Well,
to
the
walk
time constraint thing
through.
is interesting
What's
because
that?
kind of the time constraint thing is interesting because, you know, probably the biggest USPSA matches are certainly nationals. Those are usually around somewhere around 400 shooters or something like that. But I think some of the like large international IPSC matches can actually be larger than that. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like most of
So
the
getting
extreme.
shooters moved through that, like they're 30 stage matches and stuff like that. So the time constraints is a real thing.
Right. Like the US Extreme Open was a 30 stage match over 3 days. So
Oh my gosh.
we shot 10 stages per day, each day, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with a shoot off that was scheduled for like the top four or top 10, top four or top six or whatever in each division. If there was
That's a
that
marathon.
many, to do like a man on man, like steel shoot off, on the day during awards. But, the crazy thing was too is they ran squads in the AM, so in the morning, and then they ran afternoon squads. So
So
if
you
you
did
were AM
10
squad,
a.m. or
you
p.m.?
shot 10 stages starting at 7 in the morning.
Oh
You were done
my
by
God.
11:30 to shoot your 10 stages, and then the
That's
PM squad started at 12:30, and they were done by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
that is crazy. So at the Caribbean Open, it was 20 stages over 2 days, so 10 a day, just like you described. But that was
Mhm.
all day of shooting. It wasn't an AM PM schedule.
Right.
So that's a really fast turnaround. Um,
The one
I
thing about IPSC though that's a little bit different than USPSA too is matches themselves. Like in USPSA, we tend to trend in USPSA towards like big, large, um, kind of like, I don't want to say complicated, but sometimes they can be very complicated stages, right? So like we Americans, we love us some shooting. So we love to shoot, 30 round to 32 round big field courses of fire, every chance we get. Whereas in IPSC, international rules, they have to follow what's called the 321 guidelines. So for every one large course, and a large course is considered anything, I think it's 26 rounds, 25 rounds or larger is considered a large course. For every one large course, you're going to then also design or shoot two medium courses. And medium courses are anywhere between 12 rounds to 24 rounds. And then for every two medium courses, there's three short courses. And those short courses could be anywhere between 8 rounds to 12 rounds. So they call that the 321 rule. So on a any given like 6 stage match, you're going to shoot three short courses, two medium courses, and one long course. So that keeps the turnaround pretty quick as well because short courses don't take very long to shoot through. Even a squad of 10 to 12 shooters before moving to the next squad or moving to the next stage in shooting. So, I mean, you can shoot 10 stages pretty efficiently. The other thing with IPSC too is because of the fact that they're expecting kind of a faster turnaround, as well as obviously more shooters typically, internationally shoot those matches. And then with the 3 minute walkthroughs and changeovers, the stages themselves tend not to be like overly complicated. So you'll see a mover like a swinger or something like that. But like in USPSA, like if you went to like Area 3 in the past, or even like Area 2 match where you might have an activator that activates like a max trap and a swinger and a drop turner all on the same activation, and then you go to another position on the same stage and there's, like an array that has, I don't know, a multitude of other sorts of movers and activators and things like that. You might see that stuff in USPSA where you really have to be really cognizant to like memorize your stage plan. Whereas in IPSC, a 3 minute walkthrough, the stages are laid out a little easier so that it really tests your shooting, not necessarily the some of the circuses, or carnival game type stages. A lot of times that big USPSA stages can sometimes
Yeah,
play.
I'm not sure if the Caribbean Open exactly followed like the 3-2-1 rule of IPSC, but it felt like it was close because there
They
were
they
a
may
lot
not
of
consider
shorter
it,
courses. It felt like
right. They may
than a
not
lot
have
of what I'm
considering it
used to.
was more of a what they call a hybrid match. So it was. I think they utilized kind of USPSA rule set, but with the international flair of like IPSC.
Yeah, but I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great test of execution.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't so much stage planning or anything like that. It was just
Which is great.
most people shot stages the same way or pretty close to it, and it came down to who shot better, basically.
Yep.
And
I see some options
yeah,
and things like that in IPSC, but not it's not like this. Like I said, it's not quite like it is in USPSA where you're given 16 targets or 32 rounds, and there might be 8 different ways of shooting the stage. Whereas in IPSC, there might be 5 or 6 different ways to shoot the stage, but you're going to see just about everybody kind of trend into like basically two routes on a stage. The other thing in IPSC as well, like in USPSA, you're allowed to break, like to go outside the fault lines, to get from one position on a stage to another. Whereas in IPSC, that's a no-no. You have to stay
mhm.
within the fault lines. You're not allowed to like shortcut, like cut a corner or anything like that. If you step out of bounds, you have to enter in exactly where you stepped out, or you get a penalty for that as well. But like I quite like international rule set, IPSC versus USPSA. I'm shooting a lot more of it this year in preparation for the World Shoot, which is coming up next year in South Africa. So I'm trying to make sure I'm doing my due diligence to kind of understand how the international game is played versus like kind of standard USPSA. Even when I go to local matches. So like we've got a local match coming up tomorrow morning, and I will do the same make ready procedures that I do if I were shooting IPSC. So like no sight pictures, just a brief 3-minute walkthrough on stages, just to try to train myself up to staying focused and remembering kind of the rule set of the game that I'm playing.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I know the Caribbean Open is kind of something in between USPS and IPSC, but I had a fantastic match experience. I thought that was probably my favorite pistol match I've ever shot.
That's
And so
awesome.
I'm really keen to like maybe try to do more IPSC matches. I know there's a few scattered throughout the US, like the one you just shot in Florida. I think IPSC Nationals is in
It's in
Phoenix this
Phoenix.
year. It's
Yep.
way
It'll be
way
at
too
Biz
late to try
Colada.
to get into that, but maybe next year. But I thought it was really fun. And even though, we've talked about, oh, the stages are simpler and you can't go outside of fault lines and like it's less stage planning, maybe. Um, I actually enjoyed it more. I thought like just the pure execution of it
That's
was really
That's the
fun.
thing that draws me too. And you can't like because the stages are generally lower hit factor in IPSC versus USPSA, you're just not going to see a bunch of like 12 or 13 hit factor, like high scoring type of stages in IPSC like you do in USPSA. So because of the trend more towards lower hit factor, execution of your stage plan is at an absolute premium. So like losing a bunch of points, or like trying to go fast enough to kind of outrun a bunch of Charlies or Deltas like we would in USPSA, man, there's
It's
just
not
it's
going to happen.
impossible to do it. And
Everybody's running to the same spots and hitting the same targets. And if you're not hitting alphas there, you're at a disadvantage. You'd
exactly.
better be Usain Bolt if you want to make up something on time in IPSC because it's just not. It, yeah. So I liked the flair of it, and I can't wait to do the Caribbean Open again next year, hopefully, and maybe a couple other IPSC
I
matches
was going to
sprinkled
ask
in.
you. So,
So
like, obviously, my match was in Volusia County, at the Volusia Gun Club, just outside
Fallujah,
Daytona Beach in Florida. So, if you've gone to Florida before, it's Florida, people. Like, what can I say? That's
nice.
about it.
Yeah,
But the Caribbean Open being in Puerto Rico, tell me
and we've
about your
got
experience
meth in
there.
Albuquerque too, so it was probably very familiar for you.
So what was your experience like there as far as like traveling to, did you guys fly into San Juan?
Yep. Uh, it was extremely easy. Puerto Rico might be a Caribbean island, but it's still part of the U.S., a territory, though not a state.
Right.
However, the people that organize the match are very good, and they make sure you get the one form that you need
Hmm.
for your firearms to go to Puerto Rico filled out and stamped by whatever government agency has to do that. And so I filled out that form. It was like a one pager. It was super easy. It was like your gun's model, serial number, that kind of ammo you're bringing, if you're bringing ammo, because if you they had like 9 millimeter to buy there
Uh-huh.
if you wanted to, which was very convenient. I of course am shooting open 38 super comp, not going to work for me, so I had to I had to fly with my ammo and check luggage. But I just wrote it's this brand, no big deal, and I got my form back. But they didn't check it at the airport. They actually checked it at the range, but the dude just like glanced at it and he was like, sick. And I was like, sick, let's go. And that was it. It was basically like flying within the continental US. It was extremely easy.
Yep.
So there were no hassle, no difficulty there.
Excellent.
And yeah, flew into San Juan, easy peasy, stayed in San Juan, really fun city, really fun town.
San Juan's
Um,
really cool. Old Town San Juan. Did you do the fort? Check out the fort or anything up there?
I did the day after the match on Monday. Joe, because I went with Joe, who we've talked about before on the podcast. We walked from our Airbnb up to Old Town San Juan and all through the fort.
Yeah.
There's like kind of two forts on either end
Uh-huh.
of the old town there to like buttress the defense of the old city or whatever. But yeah, it was really cool, really fun. I enjoyed all the food. We stayed in a really nice Airbnb. It was walkable to a ton of good restaurants. The Old Town was a few kilometers away, but we don't mind walking, so we just walked to that even. And then
Exactly.
the match was in Caguas, which is like 25 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes south of San Juan. But again, it's easy highway drive. And the range there was amazing. Like I got to be honest, I was losing my mind because I'm used to shooting in like a dirt pit or a mud pit in Albuquerque
Right.
or Salt Lake City. And it's like you're shooting in a rainforest there. It's absolutely crazy. The range is sitting like you drive this down this super steep hill into where the range is, and they have like the range house and a couple like partially covered like large shooting areas,
Uh-huh.
and then they have a, a restaurant that serves like breakfast and lunch, and it has a bar at the range, and then they have like at least 25 bays or something like that. The match was 20 stages, and then each in its own bay, and then there was two practice stages, and then like I think a whole section of bays that were not even occupied with match stages. So it was an incredible facility, and you just look around and you're kind of at the bottom of this valley. There's a river running through it. You have to go over a bridge as you drive into it, and yeah, you're shooting on grass. It's just so nice, and the trees and the hills all around you. It was beautiful. I posted some videos, and I posted my whole match video the to our Lowport YouTube channel here, and I think the
Excellent.
Spotify one too, because we have Spotify now. But man, it was so much fun, and the stages were great. Um, I mean, you can tell by the way I'm talking about it. Like it was one of my favorite match experiences. Period. Certainly my favorite pistol match experience. So
That's
I
super.
really can't wait to go back, and I just can't. I can't speak highly enough about it. The place, the match, everything. It was just so cool to
Awesome.
shoot down there. So
Awesome.
yeah, it was like a high point, for shooting. So and I actually shot pretty good too, which you can't complain about.
Nope. Not at all.
Yep.
A great match and a decent performance. I'll take that.
Well, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I finished about 84% or something like that in open, which I was
Outstanding.
pretty happy about. That's one of my better performances in a major match, and there was some heat there. I can't remember the names of the people that were like on the podium for open, but I know I follow them on Instagram. They're banging GMs. They're really good,
Hmm.
and so I was happy to shoot close to a master percentage of what those guys were doing because I know they're pretty solid.
Yeah.
Um, and like kind of we talked about before, um, I know there's a lot of room left for me to grow. Like I shot this match very deliberately. Um, Kind of like I think we talked on the podcast before about how I shot the Salt Lake or the Utah State match last year in September. I almost shot it like I was in production, even though I was in open, just like super deliberately, like getting my hits. And arguably, that's a really good approach for IPSC. Well,
It is.
maybe not really good, but getting your points is definitely a good outcome in IPSC. And so it worked out pretty good for me. But I know like there was so much time on the table because there was a lot more reasonable risk that I
Mhm.
could have taken that I didn't. But even so, I finished 84 some odd percent, which I'm very happy with. So I know if I just like kind of push like leaving positions and transitions and stuff like that, there's a couple percent on the table right there. So this was a
Mhm.
great way to start my season. I'm super excited to like have shot a major in Paradise in February, and I've got a bunch of stuff to take with me into the season. So yeah,
Excellent.
so obviously I can't speak highly enough about that match. Um, but how about you? Tell us a little bit about your experience at the Florida IPSC Extreme.
So
Sorry,
the
I
open
forgot it
extreme for
already.
me was it was good.
Yeah.
Um, I flew in on Wednesday. Got down there early in the afternoon or so. Had a decent meal. Met with some friends, stuff like that. Found my Airbnb. Which was nice. Stayed in Daytona Beach, so like kind of right on the water, which was pretty cool. And then driving every day to New Smyrna Beach, which is where the range is at, which is like 20 minutes away. So, but yeah, no. Day one was a little stressful. I shot pretty well the first 5 stages of the match, and kind of had set my tone, so to speak, for what I thought would be all 3 days. And then I ended up making a couple of mental errors on the afternoon. I'm sorry, the late morning of day one, and ended up with two mics, two misses on one stage, and then it just seemed like it snowballed from there. So I ended up with 5 penalties for the entire match, and those were the same 5 penalties. That was the only 5 penalties I shot for the entire weekend. But yeah, it was just kind of rode the struggle bus a little bit on Thursday late morning to kind of finish up my day. So I was left feeling a little irritated at my performance and things. Friday shot much better. We shot Friday afternoon. The great thing is we were opposite squads of like we were a morning squad on Friday. I'm sorry, on Thursday. So the afternoon squad that was opposite us was JJ Rakaza, Randall Towles, Jim Krantz, and Eric Groffel. So Eric,
So
of
when
course,
so when you say opposite, they were shooting the same stages as you, just in the afternoon that you had
correct.
shot. Okay,
Yep.
I see.
Correct.
Yep.
So, like the stages that I shot, I stayed around in the afternoon and watched and kind of followed their squad and watched Eric and JJ kind of talk about stage plans and battle things out. Eric shooting production ended up finishing like fourth overall in the combined against
Yeah,
everybody shooting 15 rounds production. I mean, the guy's
that
just
is totally unacceptable.
he's but no, it was good. It was a
Yeah,
big learning experience for me to kind of
yeah,
see how the best of the best of the best in the world, kind of do things, how they execute things, where their mindsets at, how they approach each stage. So it was like a 3 day clinic, for me, or a 3 day class for me, getting to just kind of follow what Eric and JJ were doing, and just kind of feed off that, learn off that. So my Friday afternoon match was much better. I finished really strong on Saturday, and was able to catch back up. I think I was like 170 match points back on day one, and was able to catch back up to within like 40 match points.
you were shooting that match like I've been shooting my last 5 local matches,
Yeah.
just digging a deep hole.
Yeah, the day, like I said, day one started out
Yep.
great, and then it just like
Yep.
I don't, I really just don't know what the deal was, other than just a lack of attention to some small, minute details that cost me what should have been an overall classic division match win. So, but I did okay. I had a good time.
Well,
Weather was great. competitors were good. Our squad, I was shooting with some other American shooters and some Puerto Rican shooters. But I mean, we had a good squad. Everybody had a great time. Couldn't have asked for better weather. It beat the pants off of the weather that I shot the U.S. IPSC Nationals back in November. It beat that by a long shot. So
Well, that's good. And you lots of times for our own fault, mental errors, gun problems, whatever, we find ourselves back in a match, and sometimes back at a major match, which sucks because you've put up a lot of money and time to go and do that. But
oh, absolutely.
having the wherewithal to dig yourself back out of that and shoot well
Hmm.
is worth something. And like we've talked about before, kind of like a life skill.
Right.
So congrats to you for that.
Well, thank you.
Also, per my usual, my day one at the Caribbean Open was my worst day. I had various issues. I think I don't want to lie here, but I think I shot three mics in the match, and they were all on the first day. So I cleaned it up on the second day. Also, I had a weird malfunction where I had a light round, and my gun fired, and I thought it was a squib, but the RO didn't call stop. So I was like, well, I might blow my hand off, but I'm not going to zero this stage. So I racked it, and I was just like, bam! And it wasn't a squib, thank God. But it was so light. It was so light, Tim, that when I racked it, the empty case popped out because it,
Came
it
out.
hadn't even moved the slide far enough to like eject the thing. So I was
Wow.
like, oh my God. Um, but so that was not a great stage, not a disaster, but I was proud of myself for being willing to blow my hand off to, get
To
84%.
not zero a stage? Absolutely.
Yeah, I shot 84% in an amateur sport, so that was worth my hands, right? Um, Whatever. But no, so yeah, but the second day I shot better and I was dialed in, and like kind of the recurring theme, like that mental strength is, I think, a big deal.
I
Now I
agree.
just need to find the consistency to do that, from the outset of the match, and I think I'll find good success. And sorry, I keep looking down. I'm trying to find. You were talking about how good the weather was, and the weather for me also in Puerto Rico was absolutely perfect the whole time I was there. Absolutely beautiful, like tropical weather to shoot in. But oh yeah, here we go. So I don't know how well this will show through the camera, but my buddy Drew Solomon sent me this from the Del Norte 3 gun
Oh
match,
yeah.
and
Yep.
it was literally a blizzard with snow accumulating like super deep. Like New Mexico never gets that, and so the weekend I left it, which normally we would have had Del Norte USPSA, so thank God, made a great call there. Um, Drew threw a 3 gun match in there, and they just got absolutely dumped on. And so I was sending him pictures of me shooting, on grass and tropical paradise, and he sends me that and video of Ross quad loading a shotgun in like sub-zero temperatures or something
Yep.
like
It
that.
doesn't even sound like
Dropped his mag, couldn't find it probably, crap like that. So every year, Caribbean Open, it's on my list for sure. Yeah.
excellent. Excellent.
Yep. Cool. Well, anything else you want to say
I
about your
don't have
IPSC match
anything.
experience?
I don't really have anything from that experience. So, like I said, it was a great match. If they do it again next year, I will be back and shoot it again. I think it's a great, like even the US Extreme Open it's a great kind of opening match for me for this season as well. Kind of gives me a good, kind of litmus test of where I stand as a shooter, what I need to work on, where I'm strong, where I'm weak, those kind of things to kind of help me then like ramp up my training and practice for like the following weeks leading up to like US IPSC Nationals, which for me is coming up second week of April. So I've got about 5 weeks to train up for that.
Very good. So you've kind of got like the training path now with this
A little
first
bit,
major of the year under your
a little
belt.
bit, yeah.
Nice.
And we'll
And then
talk
I
about it.
saw, yeah, and then I saw you posted some stage ideas, which you're very good about, on Facebook to the USPSA and IPSC stage design group. That's
Yeah.
on there.
So I
Were
got
those inspired by this IPSC match at all, or something
well, believe
else?
it believe it or not, these kind of well, I think there may be an array out of one of the three was kind of an inspiration was kind of inspired by possibly the IPSC stuff that I've been shooting. But no, it was, just freedom of design and things like that. I get the juices going once in a while, and I'm like, man, I gotta sit down with my stage design kit and kind of create some more stages and things. So I was really excited. This is the first weekend I'll have been home in, I think, the last month now again. So I think the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks now. So I'm actually looking forward to shooting our local club match out at Albuquerque City Range tomorrow. And because of that, I was thinking, like, I've got the day free. Maybe I will design a stage and actually build one of the stages for the match tomorrow. So I couldn't just rest on my laurels of one. I designed one, and then I designed a second one, and then I designed a third, and kind of laid them out there on the Facebook groups to kind of let everybody kind of determine which one's going to be the winner to get to use in the match
just
tomorrow. But
just
I
print
do.
them out and bring them all, because nobody else is going to have a stage plan.
I like to design stages. It keeps me on my toes as far as like how I think about like stage breakdown and how I think about execution of different things. Things that me as a shooter, things I like to be tested on, things I like to test other shooters on as well. So I also use these stages when I design them for like my classes when I'm doing and teaching my 2-day classes. So I'll pick a stage that's interesting and set that up, and we use that as a practice stage or like an assessment stage for me to be able to assess and test students on during classes too. And it's always
Speaking of, sorry, I got to interrupt you. Speaking of test and assessment stages,
uh
you have at least one new classifier
I do.
in the USPSA official list for,
Yep.
is it a
So
24 classifier or is
it
it a
was official,
23
yeah,
on there?
2023. So yeah,
Okay.
is it? I think it's 2301. I believe is
Yeah.
the number. So, but it's called THS for Tim Heron shooting, and it's called THS short course, and it just short course because it's a 12 round course. It
Those
had
those
nothing to do with a
bastards.
height joke. It was just
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because it's a
That's
short.
not more, that's not where my mind went
I know
initially, but
that's neither did anybody
thanks
else.
for,
But no, I was
yeah.
very honored. I reached out to USPSA, and I'd submitted, I think, 3 or 4 different stage designs to Jake Martins and to Troy McManus, the DNRI director there at USPSA, to be considered for a possible stage edition for USPSA Handgun Nationals last year. And they decided they'd take upon one of those stages. And not only did it become a stage that we shot at the Handgun Nationals back in October last year, it also became an official USPSA classifier stage. So it's a stage that that I designed. It gets to be in the books, so to speak, for with USPSA for all the world to be able to shoot and set up, design them for their matches and shoot for hopefully the next 10, 15, 20 years or so. So it's very, very cool, very honored. I'm planning on kind of submitting some other stages again this year in hopes of possibly maybe if I can get something approved ahead of Carry Optics Nationals, which is coming up in June, then it's something that can get used at Carry Optics Nationals, the Open Race Gun Nationals, as well as the single stack and production nationals as well, so that they can get enough data to turn another one into a classifier for the 2024 season. So
Well, I shot it, I guess, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was at the last Albuquerque City Range match, Rio Grande Practical Shooting Club. And I thought it was an excellent classifier. It really is. The target difficulty is just hard
just
enough
just hard enough.
that you can really hurt yourself.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I thought it was great. I love classifiers with movement. I think that actually tests more of what the sport is. Stand and shoots have their place, but I thought yours was great, and yeah, so fantastic. I look forward to shooting with you tomorrow, buddy, and
Definitely.
trying out your
I'll be
stage.
there.
Are you going to be around next Saturday for
Uh,
my match at Del Norte?
Next Saturday, I hope to be, as long as I get my daughter's car put back together. So I'm home. I'm home this weekend, and I'm home next, and then I'm on the road for like a long stint of like 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row or something like that. So yeah, I'm going to take
All
advantage
right.
of being able to shoot a club match tomorrow, shoot a club match maybe next Saturday. Like I said, just to kind of further prepare myself for IPSC Nationals coming up in April. And so, yeah, I want to shoot as much as I can.
Well, heck yeah! I look forward to shooting with you tomorrow, and hopefully the week after that.
I'll be there.
Um, but yeah, thanks again. Thanks for talking about your IPSC Florida experience. It sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it
Sounds
was.
like I know you had some struggles, but it sounds like ultimately you persevered, and it sounds like yeah, you kind of set this 2024 season off on a pretty good foot. So looking forward to seeing some great things from you, buddy.
Same here. Same for you. So until next time.
Yeah, yeah. I hope to shoot 86% at the
Yes.
next match.
Yes.
Hashtag greatness. All right. See you, Tim.
All right.
Yep.
I'll talk to you soon.